Hi guys, it's Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Mark Zickery of Space Command, and I'm going to be doing a series of videos on basic aspects of writing and producing and directing to help you take on that career if you'd like it. And meanwhile, of course, we have the Kickstarter campaign to shoot more of Space Command, so there'll be information on that down below. Throw some dollars our way if you can. Spread the word if you can. And we're selling Space Command shares at $7,500 each. There's information on that too. And if you haven't seen the first hour of Space Command, it's here at Mr. Sci-Fi too. Subscribe to Mr. Sci-Fi. Browse Mr. Sci-Fi. You'll see amazing things, wonderful things. Okay, so here's how to write. This is just a brief, basic introduction. The first thing is, if you want to write. Set regular times each week, regular page counts. It's not so much waiting for inspiration, it's basically having a regular discipline, have an accountability partner if you can, someone you check in with once a day and say, this is what I'm going to do today, and then at the end of the day you say, this is what I did, or the next day you say, this is what I did yesterday, this is what I'll do today. It's better to have a half hour, an hour daily, or 5 pages a week as your, page count. Even 1 page a day, it adds up. So that's the first start. Secondly, you should decide what kind of thing you want to write. Is it a book? Is it a movie? Is it a TV show? Poetry is not a great idea in general because it doesn't pay very well. If you want to have an income, novels and TV shows are really the best way to go. So once you've decided, what form you want to write, look at the books that you love, or look at the movies that you love, or the TV shows that you love. Analyze them. Write down what happens in each chapter, how it moves forward in terms of character and plot. Study structure. It's basically, you're not ripping off the plot or the characters or the specifics of those characters, but you're just trying to see what is the mechanism, how does this machine work, just like you were taking apart a clock to then be able to build a clock. Remember that TV is character-oriented. You watch each week or you binge on the show because you care about the characters more than the story twists and turns. If it's just about the story twists and turns, it will not sustain an audience because people will get sick of being manipulated. And they're there for the people. And that's, again, why Game of Thrones was so disappointing to so many people at the end, because it seemed to violate so many of the characters, what they stood for, who they were. And it was just kind of out of left field. Very, very weary ending, very tired ending. But here's how it works. So if you're writing a book, Word is pretty much the program to use. There's some alternate ones like Pages and Mac and so forth. That's fine. If you're writing scripts, Final Draft is the one I use. There's other ones, but that's an industry standard. Make sure you're working in the correct mode. Spell check your work. Also, don't rip off other people's plots. Don't rip off other people's characters, unless it's a public domain character like Dracula or Sherlock Holmes or whatever. Then you can pursue that. But original material is always a good idea. Writing what you care about, writing what's from your heart, studying the work that you love from other writers is very, very good. If you have a chance to read their books about writing, Stephen King has a book about writing, and not Robert Town, it was William Goldman, Adventures in the Screen Trade, about writing movies. Decide who you want to work with, what you want your career to be. If it's a career, and if it's not a career, if it's an avocation, a hobby, that's fine too. You can shoot stuff now. You can use a camera like this one and shoot a whole movie or a TV series, a web series. So, but the main thing is get started. Just get started, write something. And then in terms of feedback, don't just have your buddies read it who don't know anything about writing. See if you can get writers to read it who are on your wavelength. Elaine and I can be hired to read screenplays and teleplays. You can just get in touch with us, markzickery@gmail.com. We don't do that too often. We only do it when we have a time in our schedule. But we're not the most important thing. I mean, they're professional writers, they're professional coaches, but make sure they know what they're talking about. Make sure they've actually sold scripts professionally and not just have opinions on the subject. I'm not a big one about how-to books. I mean, a how-to book can lead you astray if you're not careful. So I would say you know, The Twilight Zone Companion is a good book. My book with Guillermo del Toro is a good book. But if you find a book that seems to speak to you, that does seem to get you motivated and moving, The Artist's Way is another one that people really like. But the most important thing is study the form, the art form that you're trying to take on. So when I learned how to write scripts, it was by reading scripts. I was reading the great Twilight Zone scripts. I was reading scripts and then breaking down how they were written. Now remember, production draft has shot numbers, but when you're writing a script, you don't need that. That's just when you're shooting the script. You're writing a reader's draft. And then in terms of books and all of that, you know, science fiction allows you to write short stories and make a name for yourself. That's one of the few genres that still allows that. It's not a bad way to ramp up to ultimately writing novels. It's what William Gibson did and many other writers, Ray Bradbury. So, you know, you can start with a short story that might be 12 or 14 pages. Novels generally are about 80 to 100,000 words. And in general, 100,000 words, you just think, that sounds like a lot. It's about 4 pages to 1,000 words, more or less, and now computers can count the number of words. So, you know, so you're thinking about 300 to 400 pages is a novel. But there are exceptions to that. There are ones that are much longer. There are the ones that are shorter. Write your story, get it out. You know, Ray Bradbury used to say, vomit, then mop, which by that he meant pour it all out, then start editing it, then start rewriting it. And I think he's absolutely right. Beyond that, make sure that it's in the proper format. People send PDFs nowadays. You can convert your files to PDFs once you're done. But again, learn from people who know what they're doing. The Clarion Writers Workshop is the best writing workshop for science fiction. I highly recommend it. It started my career. It started many, many careers. Kim Stanley Robinson went as a student the year that I went. Robert Crace went the year that I went as a student. He's now a big, you know, mystery writer. There's just, you know, but the main thing is just create something that delights you, create something that entertains you. Rod Serling used to say when he was writing, I ask myself, is it the truth as I know it, or better yet, as I feel it? I think that's a really good idea. Ideally, your work should come from a truth in your heart. It doesn't have to be the facts. In other words, it may be about you and your grandmother, but that might not be the literal story of you and your grandmother. If you look at a movie like Kronos, Guillermo del Toro's first film, that's about a man and his granddaughter, and it's a very loving relationship, and Guillermo was drawing upon his personal family experiences, but making it into a vampire movie. So you can do that too. So, so that's it for now. But just start and have a good heart, and don't let anything stop you, and get good friends and good advisors, and hang around professionals. Go to science fiction conventions if you're writing science fiction. Go to wherever you can meet the writers whose work you love, and you know, and then just make it happen. Be the force of change. Be the one who doesn't stop. That's the most important part. So that's about it for now. We'll be talking a lot more. So remember to go to our Kickstarter campaign for Space Command. We're going to be shooting more of Space Command and getting it to you. And also you can buy Space Command shares, subscribe to Mr. Sci-Fi. We also have a Patreon page if you want to throw a few bucks our way just for Mr. Sci-Fi and so forth. And that's about it. So you can call me at Mark Zicree, or you can email me at markzicree@gmail.com, or call me at 323-363-1259 if you want to buy shares in Space Command. I'm happy to send you the information. They're just $7,500, and that's you can't even buy a really good car for that anymore. So, but you can buy a really good TV show for that. So that's about it for now, and we'll talk really soon. But guys, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.